What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today, this was one I was somewhat anticipating, considering been a few years since the last album, and I really loved it. I am talking about the latest offering from Saor, Amidst the Ruins. This also came out on February 7th on Season of Mist Records, and to my recollection, this is, I think, or I should say his, it's Andy Marshall for the most part. I believe this is his 5th studio full-length overall. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 5th. And yeah, I was a big fan of the last album, Origins, which was my first experience with this project. And for those who don't know, this is a one-man Scottish... It's described as atmospheric black metal / folk metal, which I would say is definitely appropriate. However, I would say you could also add classic heavy metal in there too, because there are some like classic metal moments that get interweaved into the music. Definitely more so on Origins. Whereas here with Amidst the Ruins, it definitely kind of scaled down on the classic heavy metal moments and more towards the straight up folk and atmospheric black metal elements of this project's style. So yeah, like I said, one man, Andy Marshall, he's phenomenal musician, vocalist, guitarist, bassist. And, of course, you have a session drummer, Carlos Vivas, who was formerly of Bloodhunter. And then you got some female vocals from Ella Zatoros, something like that. I know I'm wrong with the last name, but her first name, Ella, who has been a collaborator for Saor, especially live since 2023, and this is her first full appearance on an album doing female vocals. Well, obviously doing vocals, why'd I say that? Doing vocals and doing some like whistles and flutes and all sorts of stuff to kind of add on top of everything going on here. So yeah, this is a pretty long album, but it's only 5 songs. It's almost an hour long. All these songs, except for one, are well over the 11-minute mark. We kick things off with the title track, so we immediately begin with the title track, and right off the rip, those cold melodic tremolos and blast beats to really hammer into your head the black metal side of Saor's sound. But then it goes into like a doom groove, and I gotta say, there's about like 10% of doom on this album when it comes down to like the tempo shifts where it slows down, even though some of the guitar riffs kind of stay in that like big melodic tremolo, or sometimes they'll just slow it down to like a mid-tempo. But I really like this doom groove because of the tremolo and the bass work on top. There's, of course, probably one of the big things that comes out a lot on this album is the cello. I initially thought it was bagpipes, because I thought it sounded like a bagpipe, but I was reading on the archives, there was no bagpipes to be found. It was just cello, so I guess they must have gotten like a really crazy good cello to come in. Of course, you have session violinists and cellists, I think that's how you say it, to come in that add more to like kind of the symphonic aspect. Like you could almost say they're going for also more of a symphonic classical approach with this album. And of course, one of the other things that kind of shows up pretty much for the most part on all these songs, there's some more emphasis on groove, like where they can slow it down to like a nice groove that you can kind of do this along to, or even, I don't know if I would say shake your ass type grooves, but grooves that can make you dance a little bit, which I definitely don't mind if done properly. And then we get into Echoes of the Ancient Land, and this is where you get the first bits of classic metal, but it's done a lot darker and with a lot more aggression. Like, I would say this song was arguably the most aggressive song on the entire album. Like, it is just heavy to the gills, but also very melodic at the same time. Beautiful folk moments, of course, and the groove that comes along, but these melodies are just a lot darker but filled with sorrow. The tremolos and blasts just are flying on this track, but on top of those blasts and tremolos, You get these beautiful duet vocals between both Andy and Ella, and they just mesh together very, very well. And it gets almost epic at times, but not as epic as a song now come later in the album. And when it comes down to lead work, you don't really get like many true blues solos, like more lead melodies, which definitely works on here. And then you even get an atonal clean melody, which atonal melodies aren't that prevalent on here. They're just peppered in here and there on a couple of measures. But then you get more cello and into more doom moments. Glen of Sorrow, which was the next track, the clean melody to start this one off definitely had a more eerie tone, but you do get this like really cool soaring harmonized melody kind of building up in the background. Like, I gotta admit, the build up on a lot of these songs just are done to full effect. The bass and acoustic lines that kind of come along with that soaring harmonized melody, and then it goes into this big triplet stomp, and I'd say pretty much this entire song is done in triplet pattern, and I love me some triplet patterns in my metal. Soothing clean build that leads perfectly into those black metal tremolos and blast beats. But I also really like the wailing vocals from Ella when they do pop up, and then flute solo, which was done to full effect. And then I love how you still get them tremolos on top of a groove. Then into the shortest song in the album, which it's still over 8 minutes long, the Sylvan Embrace. This one is mostly all about melody and beauty, like acoustic guitars, violins, builds nicely. You get wonderful flutes, atmosphere, little whispers, and of course more of those duet vocals, and it's rather bombastic, which leads perfectly into the closer, the longest track of the album at over 14 minutes, Rebirth. And this song feels like a proper continuation from Origins. We bring back the classic metal elements, like you get thrash beats, but on top of that you get like these Iron Maiden harmonies and bass work. Even the heavy metal gallops and riffs come along, but it starts off in a huge triumphant fashion with these melodies and blast beats. No tremolos yet. Tremolos don't come in until much later into the song, but you do get like a somber doom section on here as well. And I love the different mood shifts. Like, for the most part, prior to this song, the album, it was dark, it was murky, it was eerie. With Rebirth, it feels rather triumphant and kind of uplifting, but at the same time, it's almost like a story being told with Rebirth. Like, it starts off with this, like, triumphant entrance of a brave, heroic warrior that's ready to take down the devil or something like that, and then you get this big mood shift where it turns dark and somber, like as if it's the battle commencing, and it looks like the warrior's about to die. But then the mood returns to triumph and feels like the hero warrior accomplished his mission to save the world from evil. And I love how the melodies build up beautifully with the acoustics and Ella's vocals, tremolo grooves, and then the song ends with this soaring melody and drums, and Ella's just wailing to perfection to the end of this song. And I love how it fades out with that like vocal melody, even though it's now I think done on the cello or flute or what have you. But man, you want to talk about like a roller coaster of emotions on this album. It was pretty well done. Production wise, this time instead of Las Lamer, who came in to do the production on Origins, this time I believe Andy produced a lot of this himself, but it was mastered by Tony Lindgren, who's the right-hand man to Jens Bogren. So it doesn't quite have as much of a big sound. Well, when I say big, like in terms of like the polish, it feels a little less polished than Origins, whereas here it feels a little more organic. But I will say probably the one issue I could maybe have on this album, and it's only the most minor gripe, I do wish there could have been more of those classic metal moments peppered in, just like it was on Origins. But when they do use them, they're done perfectly. And I do admit we got a pretty good trade-off when it came down to like a duality of contrast, like Origins being a lot more triumphant, more classic metal driven, whereas here it's a little darker, a little black metal driven. But overall, I'm also going to give this 4.5. I am becoming a bigger fan of this group, or this man, Andy, or this project, with each passing album. I still need to go back and listen to the first few albums, but yeah, this is just some beautifully done stuff right here. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.